Hi everyone, welcome back to this series of PMP practice questions, ideal for preparing for your PMP exam. And specifically these ones are on the PMBOK 7th edition, which is the latest edition of the PMBOK guide. So you're working with the most up-to-date information and scenarios. These are scenario-based questions as well, very similar to what you'll see on the real PMP exam. We've got 10 questions, a little bit tricky. It's going to be a whole bunch of fun. Let's get into them. You have recently taken over on a project that is behind schedule and slightly over budget. You raise an issue at the steering committee meeting where they advise that there is no additional funding available for the project and the project must finish on time. You believe that you can optimize the project process to bring it back on track. Okay, that's good. What will you do next? How do we optimize a project process? Let's have a look. Use additional people and resources to the project, or add them to speed it up. Well, that's not really optimizing the project process, which is just throwing resources at it. So let's put a no for now. Utilize the project's contingency reserve to source the resources you need. That's more about risk. As we've seen in other questions, contingency reserve goes on top of our project, the cost there, and that's for project risks. And on top of that, goes the management reserve for unforeseen scope that's still needing to be delivered for the project. But that's not for us, I don't think. Perform project activities in parallel, completing multiple items at once instead of one at a time. That's schedule fast tracking. So instead of doing them in sequence, we're trying to do them at the same time to speed it up. That's sort of optimizing the project, but not really the project processes. Here we go, of course. You use lean production methods, which is actually specifically around process improvement, to reduce non-value add activities, anything that doesn't add value to getting that product to our customer, and retrospectives for the team to suggest improvements. That's process improvement, 100%. Let's go with answer D. Excellent work. All right, ways of optimizing the project processes for the environment include lean production methods, retrospectives or lessons learned, and finding where the next best funding is spent. Adding people and resources may not always improve things. It can also increase the complexity and the communication channels on your project, making it more difficult, more ways for people to communicate and get messages wrong as well. So for mixed messages to happen. Page 71 under Project Processes in the PMBOK Guide 7th edition. And that was a great first question for us in this little section. Really, really wonderful way to kick us off. All right, let's see what we've got next. Your project management office is optimizing all the projects within their portfolio. They ask for your advice in tracking the type of work each team member is doing and how long it takes, suggesting that they categorize and record their work in addition to the work itself. Oh, a bit painful. What will you do next? So they're doing their work, but now they also have to spend extra time just categorizing what work they're actually doing. So that is actually non-value add, exactly like we were talking before with the lean production process improvement methods. And I see we have some of that in our answers. Here we go. Okay, ask your team to record and categorize their work as it's important. I think there's a better answer. So maybe we do it, but maybe there's a better answer here. Recommend an automated reporting tool where possible, as categorizing their work is non-value add. I think that's a probable yes for that one. Let's see if we can automate it or take it out of their hands because we want them to be doing the actual work instead. Recommend an automated reporting tool because recording their work is value add. It's not value add. It doesn't add value to the end customer. It's just an administration task for us to do. Ask your team to ignore the request and focus on delivering customer value only. Sometimes we may want to do that, but also this is coming from our project management office. I think we want to keep them on side. If we want to stay in a job, potentially, I think that's probably a good way to do it. For our purposes, let's go with answer B. Excellent work. The time taken to track or record time can be viewed as non-value added. work that does not directly benefit the output or of the receiving customer, whichever way you want to see that. We should respect the PMO request, but in addition to being efficient, processes should also be effective. Page 72, Project Processes in the PMBOK Guide, 7th edition. Wonderful stuff. We're getting a really good range here, improving ourselves, working with teams, working with risk. Okay, I think let's see what we've got next, but this is going really, really well. How did you guys go for that one? I hope that was pretty good. Non-value added activities. You're working on an agile project as a Scrum Master, where the functional manager has worked with some people in your development team before. Functional manager being from the business, so usually from a functional area. They're the manager in that particular area. She approaches them directly to see if they can add a feature to the product in their current sprint. What will you do next? Okay, so we've got our team. This doesn't sound like she's the product owner, even though she's from the functional area, but she's approaching your team directly and trying to get them to do work. So there's a better way to do this. It needs to be prioritized first, especially in an agile team. Let's see what we've got here. Adjust the sprint backlog to allow for the additional feature. Maybe, but then we'd have to prioritize it. And maybe it's not up to us either. I think the product owner needs to do this. Adjust the product backlog to add the customer requirement. Sprint backlog, product backlog. Right, so an extra feature would probably go in the product backlog. The sprint backlog is just for the upcoming sprints. So how much work, what are the user stories we can put in those sprints? That's the backlog of work, the sprint backlog. So I don't think either of those for now. Ask the manager to speak with the product owner for the product priorities, then protect the team from direct requests in the future. This is really good because ideally in an agile team, any new requests, people have to convince the product owner that it's actually a good idea. So instead of everyone just throwing ideas out there and saying, mine is the most important, now they actually have to come up with the goods and say, here, product owner, I have this great idea. Can we prioritize this? And here's why. And if the product owner is not convinced, they're not going to do it. They're the single point of decision for the team for prioritizing work, the highest value work for the team. I really like this one. Let's see the last one just in case. Ask the manager to create a change request so it can go through the proper process. Potentially, except we're in an agile team, so I think the prioritization method is probably the best. So let's go with answer C. Fantastic work. Project managers have a responsibility for assessing and balancing project team focus and attention. This may involve protecting the team's production capability, so their team health and their satisfaction, protecting them from all of these outside influences and the politics and all of the stuff that goes on that isn't valuable to their work. In Agile, this also means being a diversion shield. Really, really good. So we've got our team, happy people, everyone's coming at us with requests, but they can't get to us because our product owner and our Scrum Master are shielding the team from those requests. Wonderful stuff. And that gets in the way of them making progress of their work. So we don't want any of that. Under page 73, maintaining project team focus in the PMBOK Guide 7th edition, a really, really good way. And as you can see, a little bit of Agile sprinkled in here, a little bit of waterfall questions. We've got all sorts, so many different types of ways to manage a project. All right, how did you guys go with that one? Let's get into the next question. You're doing great. Part of the project management plan is a detailed communications plan, which has the stakeholders on the project, their communication needs, and how information will be communicated. While this is being signed off by the project sponsor, you receive many ad hoc requests for information from new stakeholders. What will you do next? So our communication plan, we need to update this and make sure we've got all of the right stakeholders and also what their communication needs are, I think, because they're obviously not getting what they need. So let's see what we've got. Review the communications management plan to include the stakeholders. Well, okay, very good. Did I read ahead? Yes, perhaps. That was spot on. I hope they're all like this one, with the information that they need, exactly as we said, and their communication preferences. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Good answer, that one. Let's see what else we've got, just in case, but I think that's probably going to be our one. Create an information radiator and ask the stakeholders to pull the information they need. That actually is pretty good. It's pretty good, but we're talking about the communications management plan. So, I mean, that's actually a pretty good answer, but I think this is still a better answer. Ignore the new requests as you've captured all the stakeholders you need to in your plan. Obviously not, because we've got ad hoc requests. Ask the new stakeholders to review your communications management plan to see how you're distributing information. It's up to us to get that feedback and put it into the communications management plan ourselves. Let's go with answer A. Excellent. Once collected, information is distributed as indicated in the project management communications plan. An abundance of ad hoc communication requests may indicate that the communications planning was not sufficient to meet stakeholder needs. It's a good idea to review it. Page 72, project communications and engagement. A really good way to get into that. Communications, always be communicating in the ways that our stakeholders need. Excellent stuff. We're nearly halfway through. You're doing great, guys. Let's keep going. You're working on a high-value construction project to include smart home components within multi-million-dollar buildings. After completing a make or buy analysis, you find that it will cost $700,000 to make a new system or $500,000 to buy it from a vendor. You prepare a procurement management plan to purchase it. So we're going to purchase this thing from a vendor. What will you do before conducting procurement? Oh, tricky. Okay, we plan communication, we plan procurement. We've got our procurement management plan. What do we do before actually conducting that procurement? Let's have a look. Work with your project team to complete as much as we can in-house as possible. That's not what we're doing, so we can definitely mark that one off. Work with contracting professionals in our organization. Yes, so there's usually people who understand the legalities of these contracts to develop an RFP SOW, request for proposal, and statement of work, so the work that needs to be done, and the terms and conditions. That actually sounds quite promising. So let's see what else we have, but that's probably looking pretty good. Adjust your stakeholder register to include the new vendor and add the scope to your work breakdown structure dictionary. Probably not the right order. We should have that scope already. That's how we create our statement of work. It comes from the scope that we actually need delivered, isn't it? It's just someone else is going to be delivering it this time. So let's put a no for now. Work with your project team to develop an RMP, SMP, and list of resources. Oh, I don't know what these are. Are they RMP? Is this a made-up term? I'm not sure. SMP. I cannot think of what that is. So it's either, I really like answer B. This one I'm not sure of. If it's answer D instead, then look, we'll have to take one for the team. But I think it's going to be answer B. Let's have a look. Okay, good. We got it right. But let's see if we get any tips here. Prior to conducting a procurement, the project manager and technically qualified project team members work with contracting professionals to develop the request for proposal, statement of work, terms and conditions, and other necessary documents to go out to bid. Page 74, working with procurements. It didn't give us any tips on this, so I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure if that's a real thing. If it is, leave a comment to see if you can find out. I'm not sure. I don't think it is. It's probably a red herring, actually. So be ready for stuff like that, just in case. And also, we're now over halfway through. Great stuff, guys. How did you guys go with that question? It was a little bit trickier. I think they're all going to be a little bit tricky on the real exam. We have to be ready for it. You can do it. A missing item has been uncovered in the project scope that your project team cannot deliver. Ooh, okay. So a missing item in the scope, is this our management reserves again? Let's have a look. The item is not complex and seems to be fairly readily available from various sources. Oh, maybe it's a procurement item again. You are ready to move to source selection and choose a vendor that will meet their needs. What will you do before sending out those bid documents to vendors? Oh, did we get any tips from the last question? What will we do before sending out bid documents? I think we would already passed that stage maybe in the last question. Let's have a look at what we've got. Prepare a request for proposal for vendors to provide a solution to your needs. That is the bid document, I think, wasn't it? So that was part of the bid documents that we send. So let's put a no for that one. A request for quote to determine the best price from the vendors. What will we do before sending out? So both of these are bid documents, I think. So I'm going to put a no for that one because we're doing before that. So prepare a request for information to gather more information and viable sources from the market. That would happen before these items, I think. So that's a probable one. That's pretty good. Let's put a maybe for that one. Review the procurement management plan for your project's procurement process. What will we do? You are ready to move to that's actually pretty good as well. But also, would we be creating the procurement management plan? And some of this information would go into that procurement management plan. Oh, so between both of those, if we were creating it, maybe, and putting some things into the procurement management plan, I would put that as a yes. But I think before all of these bid documents, we need the information. We need that information, and that will go into this plan as well. So I think for our purposes, let's go with answer C. Okay, good stuff. The request for information is used to gather more information from the market prior to sending out bid documents to a set of selected vendors. A request for proposal is used where scope is complex or the buyer is looking for the vendor to provide a solution. Request for quote is when price is the deciding factor. It's just a quote. And this is direct from the PMBOK Guide 7th edition as well. Page 75, the bid process. Very, very handy information to have. How did you guys go with that one? There are a few tricky questions in there. Sometimes there are a few answers that will seem correct and we have to choose the most correct one. It can be very difficult, but I know you can do it. What have we got next? You're working on a project where part of the work is planned carefully up front and another part is subject to change. You negotiate terms and conditions, including cost, delivery, and payment dates. The vendor is concerned about confusion that might occur between pre-planned and changeable work. What will you do next? Okay, so sounds like we're working with a vendor. We've got some pre-planned work, some changeable work, and is there confusion about this? How do we manage this with a vendor? Okay, this could be tricky. And it looks like we've got contracts. Okay, maybe it's the different types of contracts to manage this. This could be good. Use a firm fixed price contract to ensure the cost is fixed, but the scope can remain flexible. Incorrect. Firm fixed price is just here's the scope and here's the price, and that's it. So let's say no for that one. Use a time and materials contract to ensure only the time and the materials used are paid for. That could be pretty good. But again, we've got these two different sorts. It still could get confusing, exactly like they're saying. So how do we avoid that confusion? Adjust your project plan to suit either a predictive or adaptive approach to reduce the confusion. So do we choose either one and just lock it in? Either one agile, or waterfall? I think we need to go with both. I prefer like a hybrid method here. So we'll say no for that one for now. Use a master agreement for the overall contract with adaptive work placed in an appendix. Okay, that actually could work, especially because we're talking about contracts. We have a master agreement on what we need, and then for the adaptive work, that's placed in the appendix so that we're aware that there is some changeable work happening as well. It's still part of the contract, so it still works for us. It gets rid of any confusion because it's all written in the contract. I think that's actually pretty good. Let's go with answer D. Okay, great. For projects that use an adaptive approach for some deliverables and a predictive approach for others, a master agreement is used, and the adaptive work may be placed in an appendix or a supplement. This allows the changes to occur on the adaptive scope without impacting the overall contract. And remember again, this is direct from the PMBOK Guide 7th edition, page 76, the bid process contracting for that particular section if you want to check that out for yourself. And I really recommend you do. This is really good. You can go straight there and check that out. And you know what else we can check out is the last 3 questions in this particular section. Wow, we're really getting through this. You're doing an amazing job. Not far to go. Let's keep going. You're working in an agile project where there are vastly differing levels of product knowledge within your team. The Scrum Master suggests that you try to gain knowledge by osmosis, because the project information may be lost when only communicating by email. What will you do next? So how do we do things by osmosis? We've spoken about this before. It's when we're all co-located in the same space so that we can overhear conversations, and information is just seeping into our brain because we're overhearing it naturally, and we're close to the action, we're close to the things that are happening. This is such a powerful method, and it really, really does work. And I can see co-locate the team to capture the benefit of each person's tacit knowledge. That's knowledge that they can't readily explain. So it just happens in those conversations. I think that's actually really good. Refer to the organizational process assets to capture the team's explicit knowledge. Explicit knowledge is things that can be explained. So like processes that we can put in place, for example. But that's a no for now. Osmosis is that co-location. Refer to the project's knowledge management system and capture the project's explicit knowledge. Very similar again, good practice, but not for us. Create a process to capture the team's tacit knowledge. That's, we're creating a process to do that, but the process actually is co-location. Usually we're all together, we're overhearing things. I think for our purposes, let's go with answer A. Excellent work. All right, learning by osmosis is capturing information from immediate surroundings, such as co-locating the team. Tacit knowledge is information that is not straightforward, such as experience, insights, and practical knowledge or skill. Explicit knowledge can be readily codified using words, a process, or pictures. And that's page 77 under explicit and tacit knowledge in the PMBOK Guide 7th edition. How did you guys go with that one? I think that's pretty good, and we're learning more about creating our own teams as well. Really powerful stuff. Last 2 questions, let's keep going. You're doing great. You're working as a product owner this time and have placed high-level information about the product in the product backlog. That's good. The highest priority feature is at the top. That's also good. Senior users informing the project are unable to clearly articulate their requirements. Okay, that's a clue. And they're concerned that the product will not truly meet their needs. What will you do next? So how do we articulate requirements better? Let's see. Proceed with the highest priority item during the first sprint. I think this is more about articulating requirements, so potentially no. Work with the customer to create mock-ups and prototypes to discover what works for them. I think that is probably a yes, because that's helping them get information on those requirements as well. So that's actually pretty good. Ask your stakeholders to submit a change request and update the project scope accordingly. Again, we need to articulate requirements, so let's say no for now. Begin breaking down the work into user stories to place into the sprint. That could work, but only if we're clear on what we're delivering, which is what requirements are. And to get that, we need a mock-up or a prototype or a wireframe or a storyboard so that we can get an idea of what it's going to look like and adjust that before we begin. I think for our purposes, let's go with answer B. Excellent work. On projects that do not have clearly defined requirements, prototypes, demonstrations, storyboards, and mock-ups can be used to evolve those requirements. In these situations, stakeholders are more likely to take an "I'll know it when I see it" approach. Now they can see it and they can say, oh, that's actually not what I thought it was going to be. Let's adjust it. Page 83 under Evolving and Discovering Requirements in the PMBOK Guide 7th edition. Wonderful stuff, guys. You have made it to the last question in this particular section. Amazing work, and I know I have learned a whole bunch, actually. So I hope you have too, and I hope you've had some good fun. This has been really good, a great way to learn. Let's do this last question, then we can have a break, a nice relax, well-deserved relax. You are gathering requirements for a new feature in a customer management system. The product owner has given a user interface feature as the next highest priority, and you are co-located with the team receiving the benefits. Everything sounds great so far. What will you do next? Show the customer team how the new user interface will look as they will be using it. So we've got our item, we're co-located with the team. I think we need to break this down. So we've got our product item, need to break it down and put it into the sprint backlog. So we've got our product backlog. We work with the team, make sure everything is good, get the user stories and put them into the sprint backlog, I think. Communicate the requirements to developers with a coherent, logical flow of ideas. That's also quite good. We need those requirements. Maybe we need a mock-up again. So let's put a maybe for that one. Elicit requirements into user stories. Oh, so that's taking it to a new level, I think. So now we're getting those requirements, we're putting them into user stories using acceptance criteria. Oh, that's much better. That is clear, verifiable, and traceable. Even better again. So good way to put your acceptance criteria. Make sure it's clear, verifiable, and traceable back to the requirement that we wanted in the first place. I think that's actually a really good one. Show the mock-up or prototype to the developers and ask them to develop based on that. Again, could be good. There are quite a few good options here, but I think the best one with acceptance criteria and eliciting those requirements is answer C. Let's have a look. There it is. Elicitation means to draw out. Well-documented requirements are clear, concise, verifiable, consistent, complete, and traceable. Those are all really, really good things. That's good information to have. A prototype is useful, but may need more information for developers to turn into a product. Clear purpose, coherent ideas, controlling flow, concise expression, and correct grammar are part of the 5 C's of communication. So separate, still good, but not for us at this stage. Page 83 under requirements, elicitation. And you know what else is a really wonderful thing is the fact that we have made it to the end of this particular section of questions. It's a lot of work, and I really respect the work that you guys are putting in to learn this information, to improve your project management skills, but more importantly, to prove those skills through a wonderful thing like the PMP exam. You are doing an amazing thing, something that will truly help and improve and change your life. And I really, really believe that you can do this with the work that you're doing and the improvements that you're making every single day. Keep going. I truly believe in you. I hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now.